watching Robley Lass striding to the post to win the 1-3 Find handicap, and they'll be talking about that for the next 12 months. We won a race on Melbourne Cup Day. Congratulations to them. The jockey's getting up on the scales now for the correct weight signal or otherwise. The margins in that race were 2 lengths by a head, and the time 1:42.7, as Dan said, half a second outside the record.
Correct weight.
And there is correct weight, brought to you by Whitman's. And here is the arrival of the Governor for our great race here at Flemington. Let's go up to the commentary box with correct weight. Dan Malicki can give us the dividends on the third.
Robley Lass returns $16 the win and $4.80 the place. Australis Bazaar $4.30 and Goldview $3.20. The Quinella $55. The trifecta for the numbers 7, 2 and 3 $1,181.30, and the race-to-race double returns $53.40, Pete.
Thank you, Dan. 7, 2 and 3 the numbers. They're ready for the presentation to the connections of Robley Lass. Again, here's Rob Gaylor.
Here's the 1-3 Find handicap presentation time, representing the VRC, Mr. J.A. Finning. But to make the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Winnett, Managing Director of Global Communications.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, 1-3 Find is extremely proud to be associated with the VRC on this exciting occasion. The VRC deserves accolades for the magnificent ongoing quality management, clearly evident all around us here today. 1-3 Find is your new interactive telephone directory system, striving to provide a unique service, one which will surely be a household name over the next 12 months. First past the post in any race on Melbourne Cup Day can only occur if class is there, and proven today is the class of all concerned with this brilliant horse. On behalf of 1-3 Find, it gives me great pleasure to congratulate the connections of Robley Lass, and here to accept on behalf of the owners, Mr. Alan Clark.
Well done to Alan Clark and all the owners of Robley Lass in that 1-3 Find handicap. Moving on, the fourth, the Melrose Place Sprint. And now I can say this afternoon, Jen, because it's going to be run at 12:25 and we're right on midday now, so we've finally reached it to the afternoon.
Yes, we have. Pete, I like Pluie here, number 3, coming up at fairly nice odds.
Yeah.
You go back 2 starts ago for Pluie, and she showed tremendous courage there to win. She came from absolute last. And then at her last start, she was a little bit unlucky. And I thought it was a very good effort to finish where she did. Number 6, Lady Bureaucrat for second. Number 1, Comedy Cafe for third.
And I think Pluie as well has come up remarkable odds on the tote, number 3, and she's the one for me in the Melrose Place Sprint. Race number 4, 12:25 is the starting time. We'll take a break and be back to fabulous Flemington on Foster's Melbourne Cup Day in just a moment.
Behold.
A bird's eye view of Flemington, the focus of a nation on this very special day, the first Tuesday in November, Foster's Melbourne Cup Day. And that's where that magnificent view is emanating from, the Whitman's Lightship, which will be bringing you pictures of the racecourse and the races right throughout the day on this, our greatest day of racing for the year. Well, today, everyone's going to have their fancy on the Melbourne Cup, and in just a couple of hours' time, the runners will be on the track. But there's one particular horse that'll go onto the track today that'll have the support of everyone. It was 19 years ago that he enjoyed his moment in the sun here at Flemington, and he's back today to lead the field out. But we caught up with him as he was preparing for yet another big moment. His name is R1.
On a quiet, picturesque farm in Gympie, Queensland, there's a very special animal who is top of the pecking order. Despite his advancing years, he still looks mighty fit, especially when he is dressed to the nines and ready for a return to his stage. 20 Melbourne Cups ago, R1 was king of Flemington.
R1 lasted to win the cup by a neck.
And for the few minutes before the Cup, he will reign again as he leads out the field before the 1997 running.
Great honour for us and great honour for R1.
R1 was part owned by Mary Wilson and her husband Jack, and now has a home for life on the property of their daughter Estelle Blackman and her husband Mick.
When he first retired, he went to the New South Wales Police Force for a while, and I don't think he suited the sergeant. He actually tipped him off, I believe, but he's an extremely good horse to ride. He's very quiet. Our daughter rides him here. He's a very quiet horse, isn't he?
Lovely.
And anyway, when he came out of the police force, my mum and dad took him to Victoria. They always have had a strong interest in the horse himself rather than just racing him. And they wanted to look after him in his old age. So when they moved up here to Queensland, of course, they brought the horse with him and he came to live with us. Darwin's always been so popular with ordinary everyday people. You know, we have people that come here to Tanda Park just to see him. You know, just everyday Australians that might have had a bet on him the day that he won will just come. Some people just come and want to touch him. You know, he's a very special horse.
In the spring of 1978, Arwan, under the care of master trainer George Hanlon, blossomed into the most consistent staying handicapper in the country, running second in the Metropolitan Handicap before being deceptively nosed out in one of the closest Caulfield Cup finishes of all time. The Melbourne Cup made up for the unlucky defeats, and in the first live telecast of the Cup by the 10 network, he earned $400,000 for his owner.
He gave us more joy than money, I think.
Now 24, his teeth have ground down and his legs have slowed down, but he is still fit enough to enjoy his regular outings, especially when he's asked back on a racetrack.
I don't think he's ever forgotten that he's a good racehorse.
And here he is, R1, the 1978 Melbourne Cup winner. A great day for Harry White, a great day for this old horse, and he'll lead the field out for the Foster's Melbourne Cup here at Flemington this afternoon. We'll take a break from Flemington and be back with Sandra Sully very shortly. Good boy. Good boy.
Marvellous Melbourne, some of the colourful characters that we're bound to see throughout the day here on Melbourne Cup Day. I'm coming to you from the 10 marquee, which we'll be crossing to shortly, but as you can see, the crowds are starting to swell. We are starting to settle in nicely here in the marquee, lots of interesting people to meet, and of course we'll introduce you a little later in the day. One of our favourite members of the team, Tim Bailey, is with a mob of people, and how unusual, he's having a good time.
Forget about horses. The Melbourne Cup is obviously about colour and characters, and there is one other dilemma other than trying to pick a winner. It's whether to dress up or dress down. And I wonder if Michael Jackson knows those gloves are missing. And late in the day, it's not only the horses that start to look the same, but it's the people too. And there's always somebody that turns a little ugly. And there's always somebody willing to go bananas. Go, Mr. Tallyman! Tallyman bananas! Into at famous Flemington. Her Majesty the Queen, an interesting runner for you today.
Yes, there is an interesting runner in the course today. We've got a radiant story that's racing.
Fantastic, and the Sheik, you've had a bit of luck with this race?
Actually, I put a goat in the race, but it's not running today, I'm afraid.
and Sir Charles?
Oh, I think a radiant story is a certainty.
Ear, ear.
Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There are a lot of people that think the Melbourne Cup is just Christmas.
Thanks, Tim. Yes, the characters certainly do seem to come out of the woodwork on Melbourne Cup Day. We have 4 glorious days of racing this week, but today is the big one. This is the Melbourne Cup. Now, how many hours to go? Let's check out the countdown clock, and exactly 3 hours, 6 minutes and 30-odd seconds to go to the big race. Now, Lynn Talbot is on the members' lawn with someone very sweet.
Indeed, and it's a little bit more subdued here than where Tim Bailey is at the moment. But I've got Action Man, Gary Sweet, the star of Big Sky, sitting down, which is a very rare moment.
Well, Lynn, how are you going? What a great day.
It is a great day, and he's just arrived, so he's just sort of absorbing in the atmosphere, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I'm just selecting a winner at the moment. You might be able to see the horses going past at the next race. But, yeah, the Cup's a hard one this year, don't you think?
Absolutely. Now, this time last year, you were scrambling up to a very novel vantage point.
Yeah, I see it's vacant again this year. We got this year they put the Channel 10 logo across, so that'll be good. They'll know who I work for. But I think I'm going to get up there again this year. It's a good spot to see.
Good on. Now, Chris Manning, gregarious and rather outrageous, just like your good self.
No. Very different to me. Very different to me. I'm very quiet and subdued. Yes, tonight we've got the final 2-hour episode. Starts at 9:30. And it's a pretty good app too. It's a bit of a blockbuster. We got 2 of them together. It sees the demise of one of the characters and my rise from chief pilot to general manager.
Fantastic. And second series coming up next year, Sandra, of Big Sky. So we look forward to the final 2-hour episode tonight. And have a great day.
Thanks, Lynn. You too.
Thanks, Lynn, and thanks, Gary. Yes, the season finale on 10 tonight. Well, as we all know, and as we keep saying, the Cup is an extraordinary race. And I'm sure you can recall some of those races where the excitement carried on right through to the finish line.
There's never been a moment like it in Melbourne Cup history.
There's a protest. This could be a sensation. Second against first.
The protest is second against first.
The announcement of the first ever protest created scenes of drama and havoc outside the steward's room and suggested that whatever the result, the loser will go down as one of the unluckiest runners ever. In fact, when the dust settled, everyone agreed that Let's Elope was a worthy winner. There's been unluckier runners than Shiva's Revenge, like Natsky, dwarfed by the giant Empire Rose in 1988.
Natsky won't make it, and the big mare wins.
Or Dandelief, handled by an apprentice in 1978, the first year of the national live telecast.
Caro and Dandelief flying. Owen Master to win the Cup by a neck.
The very next year, Salamander, ridden by Roy Higgins, was nosed out by Hyperno. But no one could blame Roy, who very nearly rode the race of his life.
Hyperno out wider. There's 5 in line. Salamander on the inside, grab the lead. Hyperno and Red Nose are cutting him down. Salamander, Hyperno on the outside, picking up Salamander. Salamander and Hyperno.
Not so Malcolm Johnston in 1982, whose ride on Kingston Town left the champion vulnerable to the finishing burst of Gurner's Lane.
There's the rape on the outside and Gurner's Lane flying on the inside. Gurner's Lane after Kingston Town. Gurner's Lane and Kingston Town. Gurner's Lane going a shade the better. And Gurner's Lane wins the Cup from Kingston Town.
Why wouldn't they still be arriving? Of course, this is the premier horse race of the year. We must cross now to Peter and Jenny for details of race 4. And Peter, this is a race straight down the straight. What side of the track do you think they'll be running on?
Well, I think they'll probably come down the outside here, Jen, because with the barriers being up against the outside fence, Sandra, and we saw earlier that a horse won from down the outside. And, Jen, it's only a small field, so I think they'll stick to the outside.
And true, and also we've had a bit of racing on the inside there, so possibly the best going we saw at the race before was down the outside.
Right, let's have a look at these runners, and quite a few of them resuming. Number 1 is Comedy Cafe. Danny Nikolic has just tasted success. Peter Hayes, the trainer, and this mare hasn't started for 6 or 7 weeks.
No, but the good thing about this one is she's yet to miss a place first up, and she's been racing quite well. She held her ground very well in a weight for age race at her start 2 starts ago, so I think she comes into it with a good chance.
Number 2 is Magic Turn. Greg Childs is the rider, and again she hasn't appeared at the racetrack for a while, probably a little more than 2 months.
Yes, she led and got her own way at Sandown, this horse, at her 2 starts ago. ago. And her best runs have really been with the sting out of the track. I think the track's probably a little bit firm for her today.
Incidentally, just to let you know, there's been a big plonk on number 10, Such a Pleasure, and we'll have a look at her shortly. Number 3 is Pluie. Jim Mason trains here at Flemington. Didn't have the best of luck, went fourth to Belle Reeve, Jen, and finished less than a length from the winner.
And that's a very good form race as well, so definitely take note of that. And the run before that, well, she won in Mare's company, and I thought it was a pretty good effort there when she got back, and she showed a lot of tenacity to get up and score on that occasion. She's going to be very hard to beat.
Number 4, It's a Miracle, is also resuming. She hasn't started since the 5th of July.
Yes, Fresh, she's a very good mare, that's for sure. And she did have her excuses at her last 3. She's had a few things, the worst going, struck interference, and just might have needed to spell the last one. So Fresh, I'd respect her chances here. 5
Lady Capel is in the Strongleaf Friedman stable. She's got some ability, this one. Greg Hall takes the ride, and there might have been an excuse even before the start at Caulfield, Jen, because Greg Hall was hurt in the gates before that race.
Yes, and if you go back to some of her earlier form, she did run second behind Tue, who won the Salinger Stakes on Saturday. That was way back in March, but her form is pretty good, so I've left her there with some hope in the race.
The Sydney filly in Sydney Mare, I should say, number 6, Lady Bureaucrat, is another one that's first up.
Yes, and goes all right too. Only had the 12 stars, 4 wins there. Her first up record is very good, so respect her chances. She's well drawn in barrier 1.
Polite Society's only around about the $14, $15 mark on the tote, maybe because Shane Dye is the rider for number 7, that is. We're looking at Polite Society, but her form is nothing really to write home about.
Not really. I thought she was quite disappointing at Caulfield. When she sat around about midfield, she was slightly tightened, but I think she was only battling to the line there, so I'd prefer to see her on that run.
Belle Barn, number 8, is also good odds with Stephen King riding for Pat Hyland.
Yes, I'd forgive for her for her last run at Moonee Valley. I don't think she's the roughest in the race by any means. 52 kilos, good jockey on board. Not the worst.
Honest to Goodness is at big odds. Number 9, Darren Gauci, the rider, last start winner at Albury.
Oh, yes, her form has been quite good in the country area, but when she's been to town, she has struggled, so I don't think she's quite up to this.
And there you see the figures for Honest to Goodness, number 9. And moving on to the last one, the one that they've come for here, she caught my eye in the mounting yard. Number 10, Such a Pleasure, Samuel Hyland, the rider.
A nice effort at Werribee a couple of starts ago when she was sitting just off them, sitting around about second, and she went on for a very soft win there, and then she led and she kept going to the wire very, very well last start too. So won 3 times back this season, so I think she's got to be left there with a chance.
So what about the selections for the 4th, Jen?
Well, I'm going with number 3, Pluie. I think she can win from number 6, Lady Bureaucrat, and number 1, Comedy Cafe for 3rd.
And I thought that Pluie was also the one to beat number 3. They're at the gates now. Johnny Letts, I think, is down at the gates with them prior to the start of race 4. Lettsy?
They had me working to the park of the course this time, fellas, so it's a little bit hard to get back. I don't think he could beat them, so I'll be up here for the finish of this race. But a couple of them look okay. The horse I brought down, Lady Capel, looked very good with Hall on. And the other horse that I did like in the race was number 3, Pluie. It looked very good. And Magic Turn, gee, it looks fair. On looks, Magic Turn will win the race. Looks magnificent. It's just towed up a little bit, but not very much. But, oh, magnificent mare.
OK, Lettsy, well, we'll let you continue with your clerk of the course duties. Obviously, you're moonlighting. One fellow who's not moonlighting is Tim Gossage in the betting ring. What's happening, Timothy?
Such a Pleasure is the horse of a huge support in the betting ring, Peter. Double-figure odds at one stage, half that, even less now, Such a Pleasure. It, like earlier in the day, is a huge go down here. Everything else has got the drifts. They've come for Such a Pleasure, the bottom weight. OK,
the bottom one, the one they've come for. Johnny Letts just mentioned that Magic Turn is the one on looks for him. We'll catch Roy Higgins in a moment. There's the map. 1,100 metres down the famous straight. Barriers, again, saying that they're up against the outside rail. And what about this? A consensus from the 4 of us, Pluie. All tipping Pluie. Roy Higgins is here as they move in quickly. Roy, what did you mark on top?
I'll go around all them, Pete. I went in this order. 2, 4, 5 and 7. 2, 4, 5 and 7 in a very open race.
So Magic Turn from Roy agreeing with Johnny Letts. It's a Miracle, Lady Capel, Polite Society. What did you make of them, Gary Willits?
Peter, I think she's come up looking very well. It's going to be a really good race, this. Comedy Cafe, she can go very well first up. Lady Capel, driven by Greg Hall. Congratulations to Greg and Kim, because they had a little baby daughter. Cassie, I think her name is. Cassie, yeah. So Greg will be trying.
It's a lovely lane, Cassie, too.
There's number 4, It's a Miracle, the only one out of the gates. There's Darren Beedman, Darren's last spring carnival.
Lady Bureaucrat in the black and yellow colours. It's a Miracle coming up. predominantly pink colours for the Tasmanian mare. And they're set to go for the Melrose Place Sprint. And they're racing now. Oh, Polite Society dipped and nearly through Shane Dye out at the start of the race. And they're all coming down the grandstand side, which is not surprising. And gee, they're racing tight. Comedy Cafe is up there sharing the lead. Lady Bureaucrat was handy. Such a Pleasure was first over to the outside rail, though, and it's going to lead Comedy Cafe. Lady Bureaucrat third, then Magic Turn, who's fourth, and Pluie just in behind them fifth. From Honest to Goodness, It's a Miracle. Polite Society's back to third last now, and then Lady Capel and Bell Barn at the tail of the field as they come onto the course proper. They've got about 500 left to go. Such a Pleasure in front of Comedy Cafe and Pluie. Right behind them, Lady Bureaucrat being asked for the effort now. And then came Magic Turn, Honest to Goodness, Lady Capel under the whip, It's a Miracle, Polite Society and Bell Barn. It's Comedy Cafe, Such a Pleasure's under the whip. Pluie runs on, then Lady Bureaucrat, Honest to Goodness, Bell Barn, Polite Society. But it's Comedy Cafe in front. Pluie's after it, though. They've got 100 left to travel. Comedy Cafe in front, about 3/4 of a length clear and holding Pluie. And then Lady Bureaucrat, but it's Comedy Cafe in front, and Comedy Cafe's won it from Pluie, and third Lady Bureaucrat. Polite Society's run fourth. Then Bell Barn, next time was Such a Pleasure. Then came Magic Turn, further back to It's a Miracle. Lady Capel and Honest to Goodness has pulled up at the tail end of the field.
Well, she always had the races controlled, and Comedy Cafe was always travelling well. Danny Nicolak just sort of nursed her and nursed her, and when Pluie came at her, she was just able to find that little bit extra.
64.2 was the time.
Yeah, very
the
smart
numbers
time.
are 136. Comedy Cafe, Dan Nicolak, and that's a double for Danny already. Pluie, Mark Flaherty, and Lady Bureaucrat, Darren Beedman, 1, 3 and 6.
Yes, and they raced in pretty well that close. Such a Pleasure. She was there for a long part of the race, but when the real pressure went on, Comedy Cafe and Pluie sort of got away, and here we go here. There's Comedy Cafe arrowed. Danny Nicholas just nursing her here. The one on the inside of it in the green and gold cap is Pluie, and right behind it is Lady Bureaucrat, ridden by Darren Beeban. Such a Pleasure's the one right on the outside rail, and the white and purple just sort of dropping off. But you can see here Danny's just asking for that effort now. Pluie's trying hard, but Comedy Cafe, she's been racing in a lot better, stronger races, Dan, and she's dropped back here to a mare's race, and she's very good first up, and especially down the straight.
No, she's done a very good job. At the start of the race, Gary, I thought Shane Dye was going to get tipped out there. Polite Society, I don't know if she sprawled. Have a look at barrier number 2.
Yes, she definitely might have just
knuckled.
Yes.
He nearly
down.
went.
Yes.
He nearly went over.
Yes. Often when they jump like that, they the back legs sometimes going because they try and get the front legs down to balance themselves and knuckle over. But here you can see them all going to the outside rail.
Very tight here.
Very tight.
You can see, I think it's Lady Bureaucrat, her legs seem to get from under her.
Yes.
About 50 after the start. So I thought for a stride or two there was going to be serious trouble, but there might be something to keep in mind for Lady Bureaucrat. Yes. 50 metres after the start, she got turned inside out, and her back legs seem to have slipped behind.
Yes. Yeah, they've all settled down pretty good here, and here's a great shot from the airship. You see here, it's Lady Chapel going to the front.
It's the Whitman
Pluie.
Lightship shot. It's a beautiful shot, isn't it?
Incredible. Comedy Cafe just getting away from them here. Pluie trying hard. Such a Pleasure on the outside fence. And Lady Bureaucrat trying to get home.
Well, the winner's trained by Peter Hayes. Danny Nicolak's the man in form today. He's ridden a double, but Peter Hayes continuing on that dynasty from the famous Lindsay Park stud, and the winner's raced by Peter's dad, Colin Hayes, Pete.
Yes, Colin Hayes looked particularly pleased, as does Peter Hayes, and there's a bit of a story to this little girl.
Yes, she's just newly enfoaled to Celtic Swing. She's been in good form all through the year, really, and we ran her in a couple of black type races where she ran very well in, but just wasn't quite good enough, so we sent her up and put her in foal. She's about 30 days in foal, and brought her back down for this race.
Must be something about this day. I think My Blue Denim about 17 years ago ran second in the Melbourne Cup when she was in foal.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, well, it's the time of the year when, of course, you're getting your mares in foal, and you know, the little change of scenery up at Nagambie and getting in foal, she's come back and she's in great order.
Finally, she was big odds today.
What price was she?
Oh, about 10, 12 to 1.
Oh, huge odds, yes. That was good odds, yes.
Good on you, Pete. Well done.
Thank you.
Peter Hayes, the winning trainer, and that most consistent mare Comedy Cafe, number 1, the winner. Number 3 is second, and that's Pluie, and third, number 6, Lady Bureaucrat. As the runners return to scale, we'll take a break and be back to Flemington shortly. You're watching Network 10's live and exclusive coverage of Foster's Melbourne Cup Day. With you at Flemington after the Melrose Place sprint where the numbers were 1, 3 and 6. Comedy Cafe, the expectant mum, beating Pluie and Lady Bureaucrat. Numbers there 1, 3 and 6. The time 1:04.2, and that is 1.9 seconds outside Mr. Cube's record. There's Gleeson about to give us the correct weight signal. Correct weight. And there it is on race 4. So no problem so far on Melbourne Cup Day, and that's good news for everyone. 1, 3 and 6. Comedy Cafe defeating Pluie and Lady Bureaucrat. How much did they pay, Dan?
Comedy Cafe $11.60 and $3.30 for the place. 3 Pluie $1.90 and 6 Lady Bureaucrat $2.20. The Quinella paid $23.80. The trifecta $299.50, and the reigning double on the previous 2 races. That combination was 7 into 1, returns $102.20, Pete. So 136 on race 4.
Well, people who were following Jenny Chapman would be happy. A box trifecta there, almost $300 for Jen. We'll be talking to her in a moment. In the interim, Rob Gaillard with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, the Melrose Place Sprint, and Mr. R.M. Fitzroy representing the VRC, but we've got a very special guest joining us over this Spring Carnival. She's going to make the presentation to us now, Miss Brooke Langton, who plays Samantha in Melrose Place.
Hello, Melbourne. It is a pleasure to be here. This is an amazing city and an amazing race, so thank you. And I cannot wait. Comedy Cafe, I just heard, is pregnant, so she's 3 weeks. So she just won, and she's with child, right? So congratulations to Colin Hayes, the owner of the horse, and his son Peter is the trainer, and the jockey is Danny Nikolic. So here they are. Thank you.
Well, one of the more enthusiastic presentations from our visitor from Melrose Place. And I think Colin Hayes looks pretty pleased about that. Just thanking Brooke, and no doubt he'll be pleased with the trophy, and he'll be pleased with the offspring that he gets from Comedy Cafe, Jen, because she is pretty smart and well done with that trifecta.
Her first up form is impeccable, really, Pete, so she really did go on to score very nicely today.
What about the next race 5? It's just as open as everything else today. It's the Anderson Consulting Plate at 1:05, scratchings of 15, 18 and 19.
I think there's a very promising horse in this race by the name of Beazle Bay, number 8. This horse at Geelong, most impressive. Just went to the line under a pretty good hold there. Drawn barrier 17, that might be the only thing against him, but he's very, very smart. I think he can win from number 14, Lord Quickstep, and number 3, Hawksmoor.
I've gone for Lord Quickstep, which is round about the $9 mark, as you can see on the tote there. It has also drawn a wide gate out in barrier number 15, so both of those horses are probably going to need luck. But from Jennifer, a big wrap on number 8, Bazile Bay. Paul Perry has already had a big carnival. It's a Ryan from Richard Friedman, Bazile Bay from John Letts. And I must say I was tossing up between Bazile Bay and Lord Quickstep and finished up going for Lord Quickstep. So there are the selections in race 5. Early activity in the betting ring is going on. Tim Gossage is down there to take a look at it and give us a report on what happened on race 4, Tim.
Well, it really was a little late specking for Comedy Cafe, but they certainly left the money in the bags with such a pleasure, missing a place and being beaten a long way from home. The wraps are big on Bazile Bay. Peter, as you know, coming to the course, everyone in Sydney that you bump into says this horse is a very, very nice horse and will win much better races than it's in today. It's opened up very, very short. The only horse really in the market to beat it is Lord Quickstep.
Tim Gossage in the betting ring. Well, it's overcast here, but we're having a wonderful day, and why wouldn't we? It's Foster's Melbourne Cup Day. We're going to take a break from Flemington now. Sandra Sully will be back with us on the other side of the break to take a look at some of the Cup Day